All right. Hi, everybody. Sabrina Maurice here, coming to you live from down under in New Zealand. So kia ora. And I am so excited to have Miss Heidi Totten here with us from over in Utah. So welcome, everyone, and welcome, Heidi. And just a little bit about Miss Heidi here is she's the leader of the Tech Tribe for coaches and mentors that want online business and websites. And just you're amazing with technology. Like, it's been phenomenal being friends with you over the past few years and like watching just different ways that you've grown. But then, and I don't know if you guys know this about Heidi and I, but we like also co-authored a book together. And
It hit number one on
Yes.
Amazon.
Yes, success through failing. So, but more so, even beyond that, is one of the things that you're most known for is the 100 Humanitarians and the work that you're doing over in Africa and Kenya. And I believe you're headed over there in 6 weeks. So I'm going to pass it over to you. Give us a little bit about your background, why you do what you do, what your passion is, and so on, other than tacos.
Right. I know. I mean, that's what I'm known for. It's kind of hilarious because that was accidental. And the people who actually eat lunch with me, they're like, let's go have tacos. And I'm like, okay. And I'll order fajitas. They're like, what?
That's
I'm
not
like, listen, it's sort of a weird thing that I'm known for this. And I don't really know how it started, but it is what it is. So I just roll with it. And it helps my analytics on Facebook. So
It really does. Like, because when you're like, what am I known for? It's like tacos. Tacos in Kenya.
It's really funny. And not tech, which is really kind of
like your main. Yeah.
So yeah, I actually got started. Okay, this is really aging me, but I got started in technology like right when kind of AOL was shipping their 2.0. Like that was when I really got started. And I loved technology from the beginning. I loved email. Obviously, I'm really social. And so I really loved the whole idea of how we could make tech work. And so I worked at a company. I started in 1996.
Wow.
Started working for a tech company. It was called Macromedia, and they did digital like graphic design software and movie making and stuff like that.
Early days.
Yeah. In fact, Adobe eventually bought them out. And then I moved across the country and moved to Washington, D.C. It was one of those fluke things. I didn't really know what to do with my life. So I booked a U-Haul and moved, and I had no job, no place to live, and $800 in my bank account. And I was just like, let's see what happens. So I started temping out in the DC area.
How old were you at that point, by the way?
I was 25.
Okay. 25. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Keep going.
So and then I started recruiting. So I was kind of one of those bloodsuckers of the tech industry, where I was like, I was making a ton of money recruiting tech people, but I wasn't a developer or anything myself. But I learned a lot during that time because I was building all these technical teams. I did eventually go and work for AOL, which was kind of fun. Wow. And just loved it. And so I did that for a long time. And then about 10 years ago, I was in a partnership with two men. We owned a recruiting agency, and one of them said, I don't think you should be taking a salary because you're not supporting a family. And I was like, okay. So we were struggling. Like, this was 2010, 2011, when things were coming back in terms of the job market and stuff. But it was such a like, oh, and I just said, you know what, I'm out. And I just we were at this meeting, I pushed my chair away and I was like, see ya. And walked away from it. It shut down a few months later. And,
wow, of course.
But I realized I needed to know how to run a business. And that was the biggest challenge with that company, was that we were great technical recruiters and we did not know how to run the business. And so we were just kind of floundering. And so I decided, okay, if I'm going to do anything in business, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, if I'm going to do any of this and not go to work for another company, I'm going to learn how. And so I hired a business coach. I did a 2-year business intensive program. And, at the time I was like, I'm going to teach people how to eat plant-based. Like, that was my first business.
I love it.
Right. I had 3 clients paying me $12 a month to
Wow.
teach me how to eat plant-based. I mean, it was just ridiculous,
Mhm.
and I ended up, turned out I was allergic to 5 different types of beans. So my plant-based,
Life it did not last very long. Hey, don't rag on the grassroots, man, because those grassroots really, they are the just the sprouts of what grew to be essentially like you had grass and then you had trees and then you've had like this beautiful forest grow. So yeah, keep going.
yeah, that was really the thing, was that it was kind of to cut my teeth, right? I needed something to do, and I didn't know at the time what to do. And then
Yeah.
it was probably like 7 years ago, I had been consuming all of this business training. I mean,
Yeah.
I had done like Jeff Walker and Brennan Burchard and Shalene Johnson. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I was literally just, I had bought so many programs and had just learned all the things, right?
Yeah.
And so one of my friends said, I really want you to figure out what you want to do. Do it for my business. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, it means I'm coming over next week and you're going to charge me whatever you want per hour. And I want you to look at my business and tell me what I need to fix. And I was like, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'm in on that idea.
That's cool. So we spent about 2.5 hours. I charged her $50 an hour, and we spent about 2.5 hours working on it. And she went on to make about $150,000 in 6 months off
Wow.
of what was essentially like $100 program. And I was like, I might know something, right? Like I
I
know a few things, and that kind
think
of
it would
kicked.
actually like help a lot of people.
Yeah, that might work for people. So that kicked off like a whole, like probably 5 years of just doing strategy sessions that
Yeah.
were like one-off strategy. But I loved being that
Mm,
strategic partner, to come in, and especially on the technology side. And
yeah.
so that's how I started the Tech Tribe, because I really want to empower entrepreneurs to be able to do their own technology,
Yeah.
right? Like there's this fear behind it. And I'm like, hey, you know what? If you have somebody helping you strategize that
Yeah.
versus, oh my gosh, I just paid, $2,000 for a website and it completely stinks and it's not what I wanted. I'm
Mhm.
like, well, then let me help you create what you want. But often there's a whole process to that, because colors change or fonts change or things like that. So,
Yeah.
so that's where the Tech Tribe came in, and it's really fun. We're a band of women all working together to build out our technology, and it's allowed me to do the work in Kenya without overwhelming myself
I
here.
love it. Okay, very cool. And tell us a little bit about what I want to give you the opportunity to share like the Kenya birth, like what really birthed Kenya. Cause like, yeah, you tell it because it's really cool. I love this story.
Always peer pressure. So that same, the same group of entrepreneurs that I kind of kickstarted
Yeah.
that journey with, they kept saying, Lori Hildebrand in particular, she kept saying, you should really go to Kenya. And she had gone twice. And I was like, can I just tell you, I have zero desire to go to Africa, like ever. Like it just seemed dusty with bugs, like hot. And I was like, that's like
Why?
not even on my radar. How about
Yeah.
like Europe, like Denmark? It's cold there. I mean, I just was like, I don't know, it just did not appeal to me at all.
Mm,
And then I was actually at a drum circle,
mm,
and in the drum circle, I was in the center of it, and just closed my eyes, and I just had this vision of me running in the African savannah towards a whole row of male lions.
wow.
And I was just running like as fast as I could. And they roared and I jumped, and then the whole scene disappeared. And I was like, I think I'm going to Kenya. And at
Yeah.
the time I was like, can anyone tell me where that is on a map? I don't even know. Like I was all, is it East Africa? Oh, it's East Africa. Aren't there famines there? Like, I mean, literally
Oh,
I was totally unaware. And so my thing was, all right, I'm going to go to Kenya. It was actually 6 years ago this week that I went for the first
oh,
time. So my thing was, I'm going to go to Kenya, whatever, make my friends happy, come
yeah.
home, live my life, all will
Yeah.
be well.
Yeah.
And 18 trips to Kenya later
18.
in 6 years. Yeah.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
I got back and it just, I remember it was actually 6 years ago tomorrow. There's no way I can ever forget like the dates of what was happening. And um, it was just so life altering from a standpoint of me waking up and realizing that it was like one of the reasons you are on this planet and you were born was to do this work,
Yeah.
right? And when you have that, you can't not know that, right? And
Yeah.
so, what I didn't realize or understand was the extreme opposition that would come into my life because of it. I actually lost a lot of friends because of it.
Really?
Yeah,
Thing.
it was really like, it's a whole story, but it was me really knowing that the work that I needed to do needed to be outside of my friend group,
Yeah,
right?
I do know that when you have this expansion, in my experience as well, some will rise and others will fall, and
Yeah.
it's just having an acceptance of where people flow in and out of your life, and it is fascinating to see, like, who's still involved in our lives, even if it's just through technology. It's like, oh, it's so cool, like to still
Yeah.
have this connection, and then to think of the people that you didn't expect to like leave left. And that's the part that's like, whoa, that was surprising for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a gift in that.
And it's interesting because like I've taken 200 people to Kenya, which even sounds weird coming out of my mouth. Like I
No,
can't tell
please,
you
yeah.
how I'm like, did I really do that? How did I do that? Right? Like I'm so tired. Like that seems so exhausting, travel. I'm not a tour guide. Like what am I even doing? I
Mm.
still wake up and I'm like, wait, I do that? Like it really is not
So
at all anything that I'm not even adventurous at all. Like
mm,
not at all, and
funny.
so and yet I'm like, hey, let's go on safari, and I love Jeeps and stuff like that. And I like outside of Kenya, I'm like, I won't go water skiing, I won't go skydiving, I won't do any of these things. What are you talking about? Like I'm
This
gonna
is
just pull up
awesome.
with a book, so
Yeah.
it was pretty baffling. But I got out of the shower
Mm,
on July 12th,
mm.
2015, and a voice said, go start a group on Facebook called 100 Humanitarians, and I'll let you know why. And I was like in a towel, and I said, can I get dressed first? And they were like, let's do it. So this whole organization was started, me in a towel on my phone. It was
That's
like
awesome.
that weird, and
Yeah.
so, but showers do that, it's
Well, they
like,
do the downloads and the cleansing and the release and
yep,
all the information and quantum
true.
stuff going on. So that's cool.
It,
When you go to Kenya, what is it that you guys do there specifically? Like, what is it that, like, because I know you have a couple trips planned for this year, one in like a few weeks. Like, if somebody were interested, what is it exactly that they would experience, be a part of? The whole thing. Yeah, would love more.
So that evolved over time, but at the core, I knew I wanted to work with families, and that was one of the things that I saw was that a lot of humanitarian organizations work with orphanages or hospitals or schools, but
Yeah,
not that root family. And I was like, if we really work with families, we might
yeah,
be able to prevent a lot of these problems that we're
yeah,
trying to fix. And so I really, that was my goal, was to work with families. And from there, of course, we got involved with Days for Girls, and we set up 2 Days for Girls enterprises over there. So while I don't directly I have like I've emailed back and forth with some of the directors at Days for Girls and stuff like that, but we operate very independently. Love the organization and love what they're doing. We focus on those 2 enterprises
love it.
because our directors, like we sponsored our directors to set them up. So that was first under women's initiatives. And then it was kind of like, okay, well, we've got women's initiatives. So helping the women and girls in the family, and then education.
Yeah,
So bringing in the educational aspects and sponsoring a student. And then it became all about economic development and self-reliance in families. And so the best way to do that in Kenya and in a lot of developing countries is through food.
food.
And because when you can teach them how to grow their own food, and also how to sell produce, how to sell goat's milk, how to sell eggs in
Mm,
order to better their circumstances, it seems logical. But when you have grown up in a family where your parents are making less than $1 a day, and no one has shown you how to get out of that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a simple, it's so simple. It's like, hey, did you know that you could do this? And then all of a sudden they're going from like $1 a day to $90 a month. And it's like, and it takes them out of extreme poverty.
Yeah.
Well, my degree's in family science. And so I saw that as
Mm.
okay, wait a minute. We can literally lift a family out of extreme poverty and set them on a path for future generations, which means I've got to really be in this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then as an extension of that, so we have women's initiatives, we have the youth education, we have the family, we call it the business box for families. And we
Yes.
start with garden towers and then we progress up, and they can actually earn other things by showing good stewardship and taking care of what we've donated to them.
Yeah.
So it's a process for them, but we know that as we do that, that we're actually teaching them really valuable life skills.
Mm.
And so
So
as a result,
it's feeding, it's not just feeding a man a fish a day, it's teaching them how to fish, right? So that way they can have those lifelong skills.
yeah,
And
our
I'm
goal is
yeah,
to have them not need us.
sustainability. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the days for girls, for people who don't know, is, from my understanding, is education on like the menstrual cycle, because it's very like taboo there, and like providing kits like that for young girls, so that way they don't have to miss school, because they will miss school during that week, that week of the month, which is ridiculous because it's a bodily human function that they, can't help. And so I believe that's part of what Days for Girls does as well, right? Like the
Yeah.
education portion, and empowering them to have the tools to like still go and get their education. Is that right?
Well, they're reusable feminine hygiene kits.
Yeah.
And so when we set up the enterprise, it was twofold, because we want to provide the kit for the girl to keep her in school for 3
Yeah.
years, right?
Yeah.
But we also looked at it from, again, the economic development side, because Christine and Anita both, like when we fundraise here for kits over there,
Yeah.
then Christine and Anita can pay their team, which then they can pay their school fees, and then they feed their families, right? So we
Mm,
set it up so that it's literally like an economic engine for the community.
very cool.
And so now, like, Anita has a lot of people working for her. Christine has a lot of people working for her. And so as our donations grow, which we work to donate 1,000 kits a year, or 100
Wow.
kits a month, really is what we're
Very
going for.
cool. Yeah.
And as the amount that we donate grows, they can add people to their team,
Correct. I
so
get it. Yeah.
yeah.
And so people can go to 100humanitarians.com, right,
Mhm.
to donate. And the donation is used for these business builder packs, right? What did you call it? The builder packs. What did you call them?
Business box for families.
Thank you. That one.
What you want it to go towards. Like, you can go and look at our
That's
programs,
cool.
like, hey, I want to donate a kit, or if you want to donate a kit every month, which is $10 a month, right?
That's
10
amazing.
bucks a month keeps a girl in school, and she
Wow.
has reasonable feminine hygiene. So
You know what I love about you and your organization is that I know, well, because I've been friends with you for as long as I have, like sometimes with organizations, there's trust issues for me. I'm like, I don't know that I can trust where the money's actually going to be getting used, but because I know you and I know that the money is going exactly where you said it's going, and I've seen the results, it's really, guys, if you have $10 a month, it's like, pop it here, because this really is making a difference in not just one girl's life, but like generations to come.
yeah.
Seriously, it's like, we think, oh yeah, $10. Well, okay, the people are buying Starbucks for that. It's like, that's somebody's life that could be changed for generations. So,
And that's what
yeah.
I try and explain to people is, I'm like, listen, when you donate that $10, it's providing a kit for a
Mm,
girl. It's also providing a job for a
yeah.
woman, who literally, like, $7 is in materials and $3 is to pay the women to sew the kits. And
Wow.
so, that seems like so minor, but then that has a ripple effect in the economy as well, because then that woman can buy food for her kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if she's sewing a kit a day and she's being paid $3 a day for that, then
Mm,
that goes really far. And that actually takes that woman out of extreme poverty. It's
Yes.
that micro.
And then therefore, and thereafter, and thereafter, every decision that we make affects 7 generations from here out. And so it's, yeah, it's really important to be really conscious of our decisions. And I love that you have your shirt that says visionary, because because you really are, you got this vision with the lions and all of the things. And now fast forward how many years, and here you stand being this representative and leader in such a beautiful movement that is changing generations to come, including for yourself and your family. So I thank you and I honor you for your work, because people get so distracted with life that they actually aren't doing what, like, we all came down with a purpose and with a mission. And we don't, when we get the clarity around what our mission is, it's like, are you going to continue to be distracted, or are you just going to go for it and just follow through? And for, for me, I connect with God, like that higher source of like, okay, what's next? Okay, you want me to do it right now in a towel? Got you. Like, I'm doing it pretty much, right? So that's your first tip, I would assume.
Yes. And it's funny because I allow myself a gestation of 2 years, right? So like we just built a house in Kenya. That actually took 5 years. But the first building, we're building a cultural center in Kenya on the Masai Mara. The first building took 2 years, right? So I was like, oh, it was just the first building.
Yeah.
Right? So it's this kind of progression. And so you have to allow that time, right? That if God gives you an impression, and it doesn't mean next week, it means it's coming. Like I had a dream, I joked about this on Facebook. I'm like, whoa, I totally had a dream that I started a restaurant in Kenya. Like Mara, it was this little snack shop, and I have the menu. I was like, oh, chapati and guacamole and French fries. And like it was a place for people to come and stop there for snacks after safari. That's what came to me. So the next day I messaged, my director over there, Moses, and I was like, so I had a dream about this. And he's like, let's do it. And then a few days later, he's like, you're crazy, right? I'm like, yes, but what is it this time? And he's, you just like had this dream and now you want to start a restaurant.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, like, why not?
Yeah.
And he's like, you're crazy. I'm like, listen, it makes sense. I mean, people stop for
actually snacks, things that are God-given directions don't actually make sense to the 3D mind. They're the things that like for me, right? Like our family, I got told very clearly, you must leave now and you have to leave by March 25th. And it was like March 19th. So we had like 3 days. And I go to Dustin and I'm like, oh, I've been told by God, we got to go. And he's like, oh no, we're not leaving. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like the nation's going to shut down. I had all this very clear, like, the vision and the clarity of what he had told me. And sure enough, we're mid-conversation. The Prime Minister of New Zealand pops on and says, we're shutting down the borders. You won't be able to enter in, on the exact date that I was like, we've got to go. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. So we made it the day before lockdown here. And we packed up in 3 days, a family of 9, and that's not logical.
No, it's not. But that was the thing, was that date, March 25th, was when Kenya shut down too. So it was like people were getting warnings. People were getting,
it's like, I'm getting goosebumps. You even saying that. I was getting very clear downloads of like, you must leave now. And I haven't shared this yet, but I've shared it with some people, but we've also gotten a new download. We're headed back. So we're actually, we're headed back to America, just with the things that are going on the planet. And we've got 2 kids over there. We're like, we just really don't want to keep rolling the dice of gambling of like, we don't know when we're going to see them again. Like it's been a really beautiful bubble here, but that's what it is. Like, it's been a really pretty paradise of like, not really looking at any problems in the world. And just like happy as can be. And then the reality is we have 2 kids in Arizona and we all miss them dearly, and it's just time. And so everything has already started moving. The house that we're currently living in sold, and the buyers want to move in, and they want to move in June. And I was like, oh, cool. So that all lined up right on time. So yeah, we'll be headed back. The date we got told was June 11th. We may come back earlier, but yeah, interesting, huh? It's like There it is. Not logical to the brain, because it's like, but why'd you move across the planet in the first place? It's like, you guys, I would not have known the things I now know had I not trusted and surrendered and done the thing in the first place. Like I would do this over and again every single time.
When back in the fall, I had decided I'm not going to go to Kenya until, this year sometime. I was just like hunkering down, not doing anything, got super, super antsy. And, finally I was just like, I don't know what's going on. And my husband just said, you know how God speaks to you and you'll know what to do. And the next day I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh. And I walked downstairs and I said to my mom, I've got to get over there and I've got to buy furniture for the guest house so that it's ready to rent, so that it's ready. And she said, yes, you do. Get back before the election. And so I literally got back 2 days before the election. Like I had to,
in October. I didn't know that. That's so crazy. Cool.
I
okay.
I did one post from over there. I went live and I was like, hi, I'm in Kenya at the guest house, but I didn't tell anyone I was going over.
I actually remember that.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. Like, you're where?
What are you doing?
I just decided to sneak over, and people were like, but are you totally freaked out because you got trapped there last time? And I'm like, I wasn't at all. I mean, it was just because I knew I was supposed to be there. And that was kind of how I feel about going over in a few weeks, was I'm like, okay, we're okay. And what's interesting is that what's coming is you need to start planning expeditions for every single month, not for me to take people on, but for, my team leads and stuff, but make it available for people to go every single month because these families need the help and support so much. And because we need to speed up because of COVID, the economic challenges that they've gone through,
So I was just going to ask you, so how I can give you a really inside view of what's actually happening here in New Zealand, right? Outside of what the media is announcing or not announcing. What is the inside view for Kenya right now that's not being presented that you can share that won't get anything, in trouble?
Well, Kenya, they've had probably as many deaths as Utah, maybe less.
Okay.
There's 50 million people in the country. And in Nairobi, when I was there, people were wearing masks and taking temperatures and stuff like that. But in rural areas, they weren't at all. So they're having gatherings. It's like they know that there are challenges. They know that COVID is out there, but it has not really and it shut down their economy, especially from a safari standpoint, because people aren't traveling there. From a standpoint of people actually getting sick, here's my total theory. This is a country where malaria is a huge challenge, and they're all on malaria meds often. And I think that the hydroxychloroquine, that when that first came out and they were like, well, it's a malaria med, I was like, oh, well, it's not going to impact people as here much because they all have that in their system and it's preventative. So I've kind of said, hey, you know what? Malaria kills about 10% of people. It's really, there are a lot worse viruses and diseases in Africa than what COVID's done. So from that standpoint, they're like, please come back, please come visit us, please come as tourists, please come on safari. I mean, they're just begging because it's impacted them so much financially, and yet, and they're actually a really safe place to go. I mean, like I said, I flew over there and I didn't have any problems.
Well, and the irony is like everybody's praised New Zealand and the Prime Minister for the way she's handled everything and blah, blah, blah. But we have had severe economic suicide here is what's happened. And because New Zealand their marketing strategy has been, look at us, we're the most beautiful place on the planet, which is very true. And nobody can get here. So the tourism, the whole economy is established on airlines, on tourism, and it's all I'm getting goosebumps. It's all been shut down. And so, I mean, there's things that like have benefited, but for sure, economically, it's like, okay, we got to keep living. Like, this isn't life, we're meant to be free and moving and living, experiencing this world. Right. And, yeah, I would say I like that you mentioned it hasn't changed the fabric of their culture,
No.
and that's really good because then they can keep true to who they are. Okay, so we've touched on a few tips. One was the visionary, basically like being really clear channel for communication and then follow through, like doing the thing you're told to do, right, without question.
What I talk about is I'm like, it's like something comes in and then I'll say, okay. And then I either take action right then if it's like a now, or it's watch for the synchronicities, right?
Yeah.
So I start watching for things like in threes. I'm like, okay, that's one. Okay, that came in, right?
Yeah.
So as I watch things come in, or I watch for like this alignment, and that is something that is, you have to kind of train your brain to see, because it's not something that I really knew or understood prior to doing this.
Yes.
But when you are in that mission and purpose phase, right,
Yeah.
of your life, then you start to, you have insight into things that
Yeah.
you don't otherwise have,
I
and
agree.
it's really crazy because it's things that people will say, and I'm like, okay, saw what you did there, right? So I am constantly having conversations with God in my head. It's kind of seems almost funny to pray because I'm
Yes,
like, I don't
that
know
is
what to
something
say there. I'm
else.
talking to you all day long.
Right. And that's something that I learned about, it would have been about 4 years ago. Because like, the traditional prayers, like you get down, you fold your arms and da da da. And all of a sudden I realized like I was just continuously getting so many downloads. And I literally, it felt like I had headphones on from God. And I was like, all right, I gotta turn the volume down because you're very intense right now. Right. I was like, I gotta turn down my headphones from God. But the point, oh, I just forgot where I was going with that.
No, it really like it means that I'm in this constant communication.
The prayer. Yes, it's a constant.
Yeah.
The saying that they say a prayer in your heart? That's what that actually means. It's a consistent connection and communication with source. And that's like, oh, okay, this is what I get to do next. And this is the next step. And I love that you touched on looking for the alignments because it's very true. Like for us, we made the decision this past weekend, and the house, we had not received the announcement yet or the notification that it had officially been sold and buyers wanted to move in. And I was like, I just know we're meant to go. And then let's just do it and move forward. And then all of a sudden we got the text finally that said, yeah, buyers want to move in. And so that's another synchronicity. And then one of the things I was like, okay, well, how are we going to sell the van? Because we need it to the very last day, right? Like, you know how you plan all the hows. The funny thing is, you guys, the how and the when is God's business. Right? It's like, oh, okay. And then I kid you not, I get a message from my friend who's about to have her 5th child. And she's like, does your van fit 7 people? Because I might want to buy it. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yep. So another, the perfect alignment. And it's all a matter of, it begins with the first decision. It is up to us. We have to first decide, then everything lines up. And it does have, yeah.
Like and it really is one of those things where often I will be like, I'll have a vision in my head of something that we need to do or build in Kenya. And I'm like, we don't have the money in the account for that.
Yeah.
And the money has never worked. I will tell you, in 6 years, the money has never worked. We've always been able to accomplish every single thing that we've set without really having any idea how. And then all of a sudden, somebody will come to my door and they'll be like, hey, is there anything, I want to donate $500. Is there anything that you need $500 for? And I'm like, yeah, we were just pulled a goat pen and they told me it was going to be $500. Like, so yeah, like there's never that how. It's just saying, oh, all right, you want me to do that? Okay, great.
And I'm going to share with you. So last year when we moved, so this whole experience of when we migrated during a global pandemic across the bloody planet changed me on so many levels, right? Like multiple upgrades. And one of the things was exactly what you're talking about, where it was like, we had money to pay for the airline tickets. And then thereafter, I was like, I don't actually know. Like, I think it was like $4,000. And we originally were going to leave in September, and we were working towards a $30,000 goal for like a couple years. And then all of a sudden, I'm not even kidding, it felt like magic. Everything started just flowing in. Everything, you know how when you put stuff up on Facebook Marketplace, it like sometimes takes forever? No,
Yeah.
I would put it up and it was gone within like 20 minutes. Every single thing. Yeah. And the only thing that didn't end up going to this day is our vehicle. And now I know why. It's because we needed it for when we get back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we never got our stuff over from America. Because I do feel like there was obviously also a piece of us that was like, we've been watching the way everything's going with the world, and we're like, are we fully committed to this? Like, never seeing the kids again? Like, no, we're not really. So yeah, it's just that decision we needed to decide, and everything. So my husband, he's at it again because he's very logical, which I love and appreciate, but I'm very like magical minded type of thing. And he's just like, oh, we've got to manifest this. I was like, do you not remember what happened last time? Like, it's all good. Like, all the money's already here. Yeah, it's already here, you guys. And that goes for any situation.
New Zealand, I thought they wouldn't let people in or out.
Of New Zealand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have to take the test. That's the only, in order to get back into America. But yeah, they can't we're not prisoners. It's a pretty prison.
I know I can't get there because I want to go to Hobbiton, like I want to go.
So it is, you can come, but now the quarantine cost is $5,000 for 2 weeks. You pay for your own quarantine for 2 weeks, and then you get to explore.
Okay, I'll wait until that's done.
Yeah. Well, then, yeah. And now they're talking about the vaccine passport and everything. So that's another reason why we're like, we've got to get back. Don't want to keep rolling the dice.
Challenge for people, even with Kenya. I don't know that they'll ever make it required in Kenya. They might, we'll see what happens. We'll see what.
It's just make a decision day by day. At this point, right? Okay, so I just want to wrap up because we've been going for ages. I've loved it. Thank you for your time. You're amazing. It's been a beautiful experience to have you on. Again, so anybody who's interested can go to 100humanitarians.com and donate, or find out a way that if you guys are being called to Kenya and you're feeling that, this is your lady, this is your woman to get a hold of. And if you're not able to make the trip, then at least seeing if you want to donate. And then the other thing is the tech tribe. If that's something that's calling to you guys, that you're like, okay, I have my business, I do need this work in the tech area, then get a hold of Heidi. And then I think that was everything. Anything else that you wanted to share before we hop off?
No, I'm just really grateful that you had me. I love telling this story. It's definitely a labor of love, and I'm excited. We've kind of wrapped up. We started our very first expedition. I went the first year a couple times on my own. I went with a group the first time, and then I went back to scout to figure out what I was doing. And then our expeditions really started in May 2016. So we've hit that first 5 years of, okay, this was the first 5 years. What does the next 5 years look like? And so, it's really, I'd love to invite anyone to be a part of it. The whole concept of 100 Humanitarians is, what is the power of 100 people working on any project in the world to create positive change?
Beautiful.
And it's really about, it starts with one, right? So what is your Kenya? I mean, it might not be Kenya. Sometimes I say to people, hey, do you want to go to Kenya? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go. And then they end up in Nairobi, like they get off the plane and I'm like, here you came. And they're like, I can't believe I'm here. I'm like, I couldn't either. Isn't this fun? People are like, no. And I'm like, great. What is your Kenya? What is that problem that you are on this earth to solve? Or if you know that you're being called to something, go find the other 99 people that are working on that as well and band together and say, hey, we can make a difference with this. And I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be Kenya. It's sort of an extreme, that Kenya is my thing, but it really can be anything that you feel called to. And I believe that our subconscious really is our blueprint, and that we come here with all of those ideas. And when those ideas come into your mind, pay attention, because
Yeah.
it's God saying, okay, I'm giving you some ideas
That
here.
nudge.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. And
You're welcome.
enjoy your next time that you have some tacos.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe
Bye,
I'll
guys.
tomorrow. Yes.